Hey everyone, my name's Justin Long. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Thomas from our support team. Today is all about end of year. I know it's a crazy and busy time for a lot of the church world. We've got that whole Christmas thing coming up too. But it's also a great time to look back and celebrate what God's done in and through your ministry. Our goal today is to walk you through um, a few of the core end of year things to do that will help you set up for success next year. Thomas will guide you through the whole flow of things, reports to check, and how to prepare your statements. And we'll take questions at the end. You can either drop the questions in the chat there, or if you prefer, you can put it in the Q&A section up at the top of your screen, depending on how you have your views. But I will turn things over to my friend Thomas now.
All right, hey everybody, I'm Thomas. The same one you've probably spoken to once or twice on tech support. So today we're going to be going over some end of year stuff, mostly in contributions, dealing with your contributions and your membership, communicating with your donors, and making sure you have a good view of what's been happening with the giving this year. So the main stuff we're going to be talking about, and we're going to cover each of these things both in PowerChurch Plus and in Empower. It's all the same tasks, just different buttons to click depending on what you're using. The first thing we're going to cover is just finishing up the year. Make sure you're done, you've entered and posted everything. This will probably not be news to most people. Updating membership information. A lot of that's going to be the same sort of things we talked about on the previous seminar about keeping your membership up to date. There's some important stuff that comes up mostly at the end of years there. Issuing contribution statements, tax receipts, like every nonprofit needs to do. That's the most important thing. Running reports for your church leadership, and for everyone who looks at your financial reports, making sure that you can present good information about what happened. And then updating people's pledges, that if people are filling out pledge cards and promising to give a certain number of dollars a week or a month, you want to make sure that you do the right thing as 2025 becomes 2026. So there's a lot more than that to doing end of year. And there's also some stuff we're not going to be talking about. Though we are going to talk about it just a little bit, but we're not going to be going into a great deal of detail because it's real particular and a lot of it's specific to each individual church. A lot of the stuff that we're not going to be covering in great detail is payroll related, giving your people a raise, putting out the end of year tax forms that people issue from PowerChurch, updating your tax table so that you withhold the recommended amounts for federal and state withholding, and then various accounting stuff, your budgets and year-end accounting reports. The last thing here that we're not going to talk about is setting up PowerChurch to send email. It doesn't quite send email on its own. You've got to log into your existing church email account as part of it. All of these things are super important. If you're using these parts of PowerChurch, and especially if you need to email your statements out, you will need to do these things. They're all things we cover pretty well. We have a page on our website with just good documentation about year-end stuff that we need to do. And also, these are all bread and butter stuff that PowerChurch tech support can help with. That every one of these things, if you call and the first thing you say is, hey, I need help updating my tax tables, or I need help preparing some good year-end reports for accounting, the tech you get on the phone will know exactly what you're talking about, that these are all very ordinary, great things to call tech support about. And if you have any questions about these, we can actually get into these in some detail if we have some time, but mostly we are talking about the things that we are talking about, which are going to be just getting your contributions and membership squared away so you can issue statements for the end of the year and present good reports about your contributions. All right, so the first thing we're talking about here is just making sure that you have done the work. So I'm going to start here in PowerChurch. So we flip over here to our demo of PowerChurch, which has some nice fictional people entered in who have been loyally donating all year. Sure, you can see that. All right, so here we are in a live PowerChurch Plus version 15. This is all really similar in 12 and 14 as well. The first thing is, and again, this is not news to you, you have to make sure you've been entering your contributions all year, with the right dates, the right everything. And also, especially if you're not posting regularly, if you don't post every week, got to make sure you're all posted up. You go to post contributions. If you're really done with the year, when you go to post contributions, it'll tell you there's nothing to post. You want to make sure that you've gone through and finalized the piece of work that we're talking about. You go to post contributions, you want to say no one posted. You want to have done everything, including the last deposit of the year. Even if it's not getting deposited in the bank until early 2026, you're not ready to do your reports, issue statements until you have entered and posted the money you received that last Sunday of the year, right up until the last day of the year. An important thing to note here is that your job as a nonprofit is to report accurately when you got this stuff. Like right at the end of the year, you'll get people who are, giving you checks right up until the last day of the year to get it onto their tax receipt for 2025. If they don't get the check to you by the end of the year, then you just got to give them credit for it in 2026. It's about when the church really did receive the money, like when you could have realized that income. And so it's all right if you didn't deposit it, but as long as you got the check, then you're good to go. Enter it for 2025, give them their credit for it. I'm going to flip over to Empower and show you the equivalent thing that you'll be checking on in Empower. So likewise here, we're sharing a demo Empower that has some fictional folks in there. All right. So here we are. We'll start here on our home screen. So when you're doing contributions, entering them, really similar. Presumably you've been doing this all year, but make sure you're all caught up. You've entered all your contributions all the way through the end of the year. And then you want to make sure that the process we call posting in PowerChurch is deposit. That you go to contributions and then deposit in Empower. And so you go there and you click add, and it shows you all of the things that you've entered that have not yet been finalized, and you've got to make sure you tell them, which ones go into which deposit. And again, this is something you should be doing more often than once a year. Normally, once a week is great, but especially if you've been entering stuff in and not been finalizing it, this is your big opportunity to go through, and you do this once per real life deposit that happens. You just go and click through the process of creating a deposit that contains all the stuff you entered that got deposited on that page. Otherwise, this part of the process, we're talking about the same thing, both in PowerChurch and Empower. Just the basics, make sure you've done your work. Next up is we're going to talk about updating membership information. And again, I'm going to do that in PowerChurch first here. So obviously there's a lot to membership. We're not going to cover 100% of it, but I want to talk about a couple of real particular things that are going to matter to you as the end of the year comes up. So first off, in membership, if you're working on membership in PowerChurch, a good first step is always you go to membership at the top, and then the very first thing where it says integrated data entry. And it brings up this screen that shows you one family at a time. This is where you go to update people's addresses. That's the main thing here is you're mailing these out, got to mail them to the right place. Likewise, this is where you can make sure that you've got the right name on the family. One really important thing I want to emphasize is as you're issuing contribution statements, it's very important that if one of the people in the family died during 2025, you don't want to send a contribution statement with the name of the deceased on it. That's rather rude. And so if that's the case here, like say Laura Cunningham had passed away during the year, we would want to make sure that we go in here and bring up her personal profile and do two things. One is mark her as deceased as a personal status, and the other is remove her envelope number. And that makes it so that when it comes time to issue this statement for the Cunningham family, it just says Alan Cunningham. Likewise, on the personal profile here, where you're dealing with an individual person, that's also where you choose, like, what are these people's personal emails? And are they going to be getting their contribution statement emailed to them? That's the main stuff. The main thing I always emphasize when I'm teaching people how to do something in membership is in PowerChurch, there are households and then there are individual people. I always start with the first thing, integrated data entry, bring up the household, get the household all squared away, and then go to the family members tab and get the individual person squared away. All right, so time for the equivalent little membership updates in Empower. And we actually handle that a little more slickly in Empower. Right? We track who's a member of which giving unit. And so what we're going to do is, for a deceased person, we're going to remove them from their normal giving. So we have Empower on screen. So first you go to membership, and same thing, it's split between households and people. And so we're going to start by going to membership and then households. And because I always just like to see who is in this household, make sure the names are right. And is this person even in a given unit? Yes. So you bring up a person here. So again, say hypothetically that this person was deceased in 2025, and we want to make sure that we mark them appropriately. So first we would update their personal status. Oh, looks like we don't have one for deceased here. I'll just mark it inactive. Probably archive them when we're done. And here in donor info, we're going to remove her from her given unit. This person's not a great example. Let me find somebody who's in a family. Here we go. So here we have Michael and Sophie Epstein here. We're going to change the giving unit. And we're going to say, don't record contributions for him. Bam. This didn't affect Sophie. Sophie Epstein is still in a given unit like normal. She's going to get a statement. But the step you have to do if you don't want somebody's name on the statement anymore is you go into their donor info and change their giving unit to remove them from their giving unit. That's the routine in Empower. Most of the other stuff is the same. If you just want to update someone's address, you go to membership and then households, and it's like you just scroll down until you see it, and there's a little button to click to change it. Straightforward stuff, and this is all tech support bread and butter. Like if 2 weeks from now you're thinking, shoot, how do I go and update somebody's email address? How do I remove someone from a giving unit? Just give us a call. This is something PowerChurch tech support is very familiar with and can help you with directly. All right, that's our first couple of things. Let's go back to the slideshow. All right, so the next thing that you're going to want to be doing is if you've entered all your contributions, you got all your people nice and updated. The next thing, and this is the big fun one, issuing statements to donors. Now, I want to talk real quick here about the stuff we're not talking about. We're not talking about setting up PowerChurch to send email at all. If you've never sent an email from PowerChurch before, you'll need to call us for help getting that set up so that you can issue statements to people and email them out automatically. You don't need to do that if you're just printing them out to mail to folks. But if you're going to be emailing them out, that's a separate question. It's a 5-10 minute tech support call, but you'll need access to your church email you want to send through, and just give us a call. We'll help you get PowerChurch or Empower set up to send email. But once you've done that, then you can run statements and email them. And we're just going to run statements and show you how to print them out, but I'll point out where you go to email them if you were doing it. All right. So let's start in PowerChurch. All right, so first off, so you've entered and posted all your contributions for the year, and you're ready to do the batch of stuff. So contribution statements in PowerChurch are a report. They're in a list of reports. So you go to contributions at the very top, and then reports contributions, this list here. And you're looking for the one, if it's not sorted alphabetically, it's first. It's all contribution statements. That's the report you're looking for in contributions, all contribution statements. You run that, and you have some options here. What it's asking you at this step for the format is how much detail do you want? The most detail shows the donor each individual donation they made, down to the check number if you're recording it, each individual piece of each individual donation. And all the way on the other end of the spectrum is total only, where you just tell them a dollar number that they're going to write down on their tax sheet. Most folks like the two middle options better, where it's got daily amounts, their total for each day, or the one that's just the summary, gives them the total for each different fund they donated to throughout the year. I'm going to do summary right now. These all work just the same. Go on to your next step, and ordinarily here you would filter out deceased people, just in case you've got anyone who even if they donated this year, you don't want to give them a statement. You might also do the same for visitors as well. It remove personal statuses here that are not people you want to issue statements for. And oftentimes, if someone's visited the church and donated and you got their name, like, you probably don't need a statement for them. They'll ask. Otherwise, leave this be. You just filter it down by personal status and go on to the next step. Got to pay attention to your dates here. You want to make sure that this is for the whole year. Once you're in January, this will default to being the whole last year. Go on to our next step. And you can, if you want to show pledges, you can. This doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot. And then we get to this part here. Do you want to print a message? This is customizable. You can type anything you want. It shows up at the bottom of every statement. But it's important if you're issuing the official tax receipts for your nonprofit, you want to have something that says either this exact sentence or something pretty much exactly like it, saying that the donations listed here were contributions and that the people weren't buying stuff from you. That all of these things are, strictly speaking, donations to the nonprofit. That's important in case there's any ever concern with like what the document represents. You want to have something that says this. And you can also have a nice end of year message on here that you can type as much as you want on here. The only concern is how much room you got on the page before it goes down to the next one. But generally speaking, you can just leave this sentence alone. This is in PowerChurch by default. Asks what order you want to print them in, which doesn't really ever matter. And here's where, if we were set up to do emailing, which again, you should call us if you're not, we would tell it to email statements, which we can't do right now, but we'd tell it at this point we wanted to, and then we'd be able to put in an email, the subject and body of the email they're getting. And then we go on to finish, and it thinks on this for a bit, and then gives us our statements. So we can see here, it's one per person, and it shows you the level of detail you selected back at the first step for the people that you told it to include. And you can see here, each page of the report, as I page through, it's a different person's statement. These are all designed for giving to people, either mailing them out or just having a stack of them to hand out the first Sunday of January. All right, so the same thing in Empower. So what you're going to do is, first, I'm going to share Empower so you can see what I'm clicking on. All right, so same thing here in Empower. So say you've done your piece of work, you've entered and deposited all of the contributions for 2026, or 2025 rather, and you're ready to issue your 2025 contribution statement. So you go to contributions up at the top, and there's a special tab just for this. It's not buried in the reports like with PowerChurch. There, you just go to contributions and then statements right here. And here it's saved. Empower remembers every time you've issued a batch of statements. In this case, this church here issued one at the end of Q3, and we can see all of the different statements that they generated at that time, which is great. It lets you have an archive, lets you reissue exactly the same statement if anyone ever needs that. But here we are at the end of Q4, and we're going to need a new full year statement for these folks. So you go contributions, then statements. And we're trying to add a new batch of statements, so we click add at the top. Wants us to give it a name, just say, 2025 giving. This is just for you. And it has the same set of options that you saw in PowerChurch, full fund details, daily amounts, and so on. We're going to do, let's just do summary. And it's the same thing here. It wants to default to today until the end of the year actually comes. Just in case you want to tell people where they are as of right today. But you want to make sure your dates are set the way you want them, which in this case would be from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. This box, show in member portal. This will mean something to some of you Empower folks. If you have your member portal set up, that means people can log into Empower and get their own statement right from here instead of you having to give it to them by email or email. Call us if you want help setting that up. And anyway, like the PowerChurch process, this just has you hit next and answer some questions here. If you want to filter out by personal status like we did before, like we want to remove visitors, we do the same thing here. This is really all the same steps, just kind of showing it differently. And it asks you whether you want to print them, email them, or print them and email them. If you've got your email set up, email is always a great choice. For right now, we're just going to do print. And we want to do it to all of the funds. And here we have messages. You can type in your nice end of the year message here, and you probably want to leave this one here. The no goods or services were provided message is important to have on your nonprofit's giving receipt. And then it says it was successfully queued. All right, so Empower, what it does is it takes a moment or so to cook these. It generates this set of statements. If you have 300 people, it'll take a couple of minutes before these all say generated. But now, once they're here, you can take a look at the different settings used to generate them, and you can print them, where it's got this view/print up here. So here, and it shows us these. These are all labeled as draft just because they're from the demo, but yours won't be. These are the ones you would print off, and they look really similar to what you would get with the same option set in PowerChurch. And if you've done that in Empower, the perk is that you don't need to cook a whole new batch of them. If you know it's March and people are calling and saying, "Hey, I lost my statement. I got to file my taxes now. Could you give me another copy?" You just go to contributions and then statements, and you can run off a copy of their exact one, the exact document that you handed them at the beginning of the year, which is super handy. All right, so that is generating statements, both in PowerChurch and Empower. So in Empower, that's contributions and then statements, and you click add at the top. And in PowerChurch, it's a report in the list of contribution reports. It's called all contribution statements. All right. Now, more fun stuff. So if you've given statements to your donors, that's all well and good. That's the thing you definitely need to do. But probably also you're going to be wanting to present information in a finance meeting or even to the congregation. I know some churches like to hand out good financial reports in a big meeting so everyone can see what's going on. And in contributions, there are a couple of particularly good ones. So let me flip back over to PowerChurch and I'll show them off to you. This is the part that is, there's a little different between Empower and PowerChurch, but it's just a question of which reports you're picking off the list. So for this part, we're talking about just the contribution reports. I want to say again about stuff we're not talking about. Financial reports for the end of the year is also something PowerChurch does if you're doing your accounting. If you call us and ask, hey, what are some good reports to run at an end of year financial meeting, we've got great answers for that. But for right now, we're just talking about the contribution stuff, information in particular about showing off what's been going on in contributions this year. The first thing I want to show off here in PowerChurch is probably my favorite report in this list. That I recommended to people for all kinds of purposes, and it is generally super handy. It is the funds report by date. You just run this here with the default options. It gives you this super cool breakdown. Every individual day of the year or day of whatever period you select that has contributions and just what the totals are. This is a good report for people who want a fair amount of detail and want to see like what do things look like Sunday to Sunday. There's also one I want to call out in particular. If you're going to do one report to present at a meeting out of this list, it's this one, yearly comparison report. I'm not sure if I have years of data in here, but it'll show you the same regardless. Yearly comparison report shows you for this year, and if you had previous years, it'd show those as well. It shows you what your whole year totals are for each fund, what money you're getting in terms of cash and checks, how many donors there are, and how your pledges are going. This report always shows you whole years. It's called yearly comparison report. And even if this is just the end of your first year, it's still a good report. This is one that's just like a one sheet thing that will tell your pastor or your treasurer just what's up with contributions this year. There's also, let's see, a lot of times you'll want to see like how did the year look in general. The best way to do that is by month. These two reports here, monthly contribution totals and monthly totals by payment method, both do pretty similar things where it gives you these nice spreadsheet looking things that show you for each month of the year who's donating to what funds. And you can also run this as totals only, and it gives you just for each month of the year, what are we getting in each of these funds? And so we can see here, like, for example, this church had a big August, and then things started getting smaller as fall happened, like probably a tourist church where people are just there in the summer. But that's the kind of insight you can get if you've been entering all your information every year. Monthly contribution totals, either detailed or just totals, is a good one to show off to people who want to know what is up with donations this year, where they've been coming from, what months were good months, what months were bad. And all these reports here are good for things like this. That if you call us and you say, hey, I'm looking for a report that shows me this exact thing sliced this exact way, it's one of these, we can help. But the ones that are especially good, very useful for everyone, funds report by date, these ones that say monthly, and this one here that says yearly comparison report. Very handy. And those reports all have equivalents over in Empower. Where did I put my Empower? I seem to have closed out. Let me fire up that again. Sorry, folks. All right. Share window, Empower. There we are. Welcome back. All right. So we're running contribution reports, not for the donors, but contribution reports intended for the church's internal use. All that stuff is in contributions and then reports, very much like PowerChurch. And our list of reports is over here on the left. One of the ones I mentioned, actually a couple of them, are just right here exactly the same. Funds report by date is as good as it ever was. Really useful to be able to see which days you have contributions for. Especially just to skim through here, it lets you see, did you miss a week, is an important one. Another thing that is, again, really similar, monthly totals by fund. This is just like the totals only version of that monthly contribution totals report. It shows you each individual fund and the totals for each month. And notice I'm not spending a lot of time on report options here. These are all set up to work right. You know, this year to date, this year, I just want to see the report. I go and run it, hit run. It has very sensible defaults. If you're doing this in January, you'd want to set that to be last year so that it shows you good information from the previous year instead of this one. But otherwise, mostly just go in here and hit run report. There's nothing quite as comprehensive as the yearly contribution, the yearly comparison report here, but there is one in particular that has one of those tables, this one here. So the giving profile report is a super useful one. This is one where you just run it and it gives you a bunch of really handy detailed information, like what amounts are your different donors donating? What did that look like in 2023, 4, and 5? And there's a handful of these here. Let's see. Gosh, I don't even know what you folks might need at the end of the year, but there's a variety of them. The yearly totals by donor. This is very much like the detailed version of one of those reports we ran over in contributions in PowerChurch. And it's the same thing here. We have a pretty good list of reports in Empower. If you can't find the one you're looking for, or if you're looking for something that breaks it down differently, call us and we can help you find it. That there are, if you need, just the donations for one particular fund, or you want to know who's pledged to one particular fund, or you want to know who are your women over the age of 35 who are donating. Like, we've got reports for all that stuff. I just want to kind of cover the greatest hits, which is, in my opinion, mainly the funds report by date and these various month and monthly totals by fund. I'd say are probably your best ones, though really all of these reports are perfectly good. Just depends on how you want to see your information and how your pastor wants to see the information. Cool. Let's see. And if you have any questions, especially if you have questions like, hey, is there a report that does this? Is there a report that does that? That's a great question for the end of this seminar because there's a lot of good reports. All right, next up is pledges. Put that over here. So the next thing we're going to talk about is updating your pledges for the next year. This doesn't apply to everybody. Not every church keeps track of pledges this way. This is for folks where if every year you have your folks fill out a pledge card, your donors make either a commitment or just a plan to donate a certain amount of money per week or per month or a certain amount of money over the whole year. You'll often see this if your church is running a capital campaign. Pledges are the way you track that. But also lots of churches just do pledges as a matter of course. And as the year turns over, people are going to be updating their pledge amount. They're going to be renewing their pledges or not renewing them. And we're going to talk about how you update that stuff, how you move from 2025 to 2026 with a bunch of people who have pledges. So then we're going to start here in PowerChurch. All right. So here we have PowerChurch here, version 15. Though again, this has all been the same for a number of years. The way you deal with pledges in bulk, the main thing you are going to be doing with pledges as the year turns over is for most churches, you're going to take everybody's 2025 pledge and set it up as their 2026 pledge, just as a starting point. Because most people are going to be doing the same year after year. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go through and start by moving everybody's pledge into 2026 just the same, and then you're going to go through and change the ones that need changing, remove the ones that need removed. Same thing in Empower when we get to that. So what you do, you go to contributions at the top and then pledges. And then you select this option that says year-end pledge processing. And that brings up this window. So that's contributions, then pledges, and then year-end pledge processing. And it gives you this little window where it wants you to fill this in. So for existing pledges to fund, let's say tithes and offerings, for all of our pledges to the normal fund that expire on 12/31/2025, that is all the pledges coming to an end this year, the new pledge period is going to be next year. So what this does, and it says it right here, it just copies the pledges to the next year. It doesn't get rid of the 2025, doesn't change the 2025 records at all. It just uses them as a base to create new pledges for 2026. Yeah, I actually don't have any set up here, but it would do it, copies them over. And then where you go to deal with this stuff afterwards. So after you do the pledges year-end pledge processing routine, copy a batch of pledges to the next year, which it just does. Then you go to maintain donors and deal with the exception, the people who are new pledgers this year and the people who changed their pledge. And to do that, you bring up a person here in maintain donors. And you can see their contributions here and you can see their pledges. We're going to add a pledge here for Yvonne Davis. She's going to be pledging to tithes and offerings. She's going to be donating monthly. It's going to be $100 per month. And it's going to start at the beginning of the year, 01/01/26, and it's going to go through the end. This is just a very ordinary pledge, and the system is smart enough to know that means $1,200. And if you wanted to, if this were a pledge she already had and you needed to update it, you'd bring her up here and maintain donors and just change it. You can double click on a pledge, even past pledges. You can change them even way after the fact. And if she was donating $120 a month this year, we would change it to be $120, and it updates it. Pledges in general are one of the things that you can mess up the least. That even if you make big mistakes in pledges, you can always go back and change them after the fact. They're just kind of like an informational layer on top of the contributions, like an extra little tag that says, oh yeah, and this contribution was part of their pledge. If you want to start recording them and you haven't been, it's pretty easy. And if you just need to update them, the only thing many churches need to do is just the year-end pledge processing. And once you've got that set up, pledges handle themselves. If someone who's got a pledge to tithes and offerings donates to tithes and offerings, it tracks that. You can run reports on it. It's all pretty straightforward, and it handles itself once you put in that information that this person's pledging monthly. Any donation they make automatically gets slotted into that, and it'll show on their statement at the end of the year how they've been doing on their pledge if you tell it to do so. And it's very much the same in Empower. I'll flip back over here. Now you can all see Empower again, right where I left it. And so, starting back at the start here, the way you deal with the pledges, so you go to contributions and then donors. This is a little non-obvious here. So what you do is you bring up somebody who has got a pledge. Actually, it doesn't really matter. You bring up anybody. You're in donors, and it's under more. So you bring up any donor at all here in contributions and then donors. And then you go to the pledges tab here. You can take a look at their existing pledges if they've got them. And then up at the top, you click more and then copy pledges. This thing right here that says copy pledges is the exact equivalent of the thing in PowerChurch that says year-end pledge process. It's how you copy the 2025 pledges into 2026. And it has the same little form for existing pledges to fund this that expire at the end of this year. The pledge will start next year. Empower is a little bit smarter about this, and it fills in the dates for you, but it just fills in the exact same things you'd be typing in the same screen in PowerChurch. You hit the copy button, it thinks on it for a while, and it's going to create new 2026 pledges that are just like the 2025 pledges. If it's working correctly, which it will be when you try it. Gosh, I was hoping to be able to show you the end result there, but it looks like this is broken. I think it's probably something to do with me being in the demo. In any case, so pledges, if you've got people who are doing pledges and their pledges are coming to an end at the end of the year, in PowerChurch, it's contributions and then pledges and then year-end pledge processing. In Empower, it's you go to donors and then more and then copy pledges. That both of those do the same thing and move your pledges forward into the next year. All right, and so that is the stuff, that is all of the stuff that is like the core. If you're working in PowerChurch membership and contributions or Empower membership and contributions, those are the things you must do at the end of the year or else things will start going wrong. Pledges are optional. You need to do pledges if you do pledges. If you don't, nothing bad happens if you don't. All right, and so that brings us to some of the stuff. All right, let's do a quick review of the stuff we talked about. So first off, this is, as you've seen here, it's very much the same exact stuff no matter what you're doing. And it would be the same stuff in other software too. To do the end of the year, first, you've got to have done the whole year. Make sure you have entered and posted every week. Anything you were putting off, make sure you do it. If you got some kind of weird donation of stocks earlier in the year and you said, I'm going to deal with this before the end of the year, now's the time. And just in general, make sure that you've got stuff not just entered, not just that you put it in, but that you posted it or deposited it. Posted if you're in PowerChurch, deposited if you're in Empower. You want to make sure that stuff is buttoned up and finalized. Second off, you want to make sure that people you're going to be issuing statements for have the correct information. You go through in the membership section looking at households, make sure that everyone's got the right address. Make sure that you've got the right name of the family. If you're going to be sticking the stuff in envelopes, you want to make sure that the thing that says at the top of the mailing name is the right thing. And especially you want to make sure that the people who have the envelope number in PowerChurch or in the giving unit in Empower are the people whose names you want on the statement. In particular, if there's a situation where someone died during the year or if a couple got divorced during the year, you want to be very sure that you're going to issue a statement with a name on it that people expect to see and is not going to make them upset when they see it. Next thing after that is reports for your own personal self, for the church, the pastor, the treasurer, for your own records. I recommended the funds report by date, the yearly comparison report, and various reports that do monthly comparisons in both programs, especially for those. There's a couple that say monthly, any of them that say monthly this or monthly that. They're all the same thing. They give you a 13-column spreadsheet each month of the year and the totals for the donors or the funds or whatever it is you're interested in. And especially, I want to call out again that as PowerChurch tech support, whenever someone calls and says, hey, I'm looking for a report that, my heart sings. I know a report that does the thing you're about to say. We all do. Give us a call if you're looking for a particular report. You'll like the answer. And then we talked about pledges. If you're doing pledges in PowerChurch or Empower, you do the year-end pledge processing thing where you copy the pledges to the next year and then go through and make changes to anybody who is pledging differently this year than they did last year. All right, and so that's the stuff that we're going to talk about today, and we've talked about it. But there's also a bunch of year-end stuff that we are not going to talk about today, and it's time to talk about that very briefly. All of these things are great tech support calls, especially these, updating, giving your employees a raise. I can tell you right now, in PowerChurch, you go to maintain list of employees in the pay items tab, and you just change their pay rate. But also you can call us and ask us that, and PowerChurch tech support is happy to walk you through it click by click, easy enough. Likewise, tax forms, PowerChurch spits out the 1099 for your contractors through accounts payable, the W-2 for your employees through payroll, and the 941 for the government through payroll. The same sort of stuff applies. Make sure you've entered and posted all your information. And then there's just menu options in PowerChurch for issuing those. That, again, is something that we can help you with. Printing them out, e-filing them, answering questions about how to do it. Call us if you have tax form questions. Updating your tax tables. This is something, if you're using PowerChurch payroll, you've got to update your tax tables for the federal and state government that you're dealing with. That's something you should do after you've issued the last payroll of 2025. We have information about that at that year-end page here and in our knowledge base, but it's also, we're very used to, if you call us in January and you say, I'm looking for help updating my tax tables, we're already ready to help. Updating budgets. If you track your budget in PowerChurch, there's a thing you do very much like the pledges where you just copy your budget to the next year and then update the budget as needed. Likewise, call tech support about that. We can help you with everything budget related. There's nothing budget related that is in any way hard, and we'll just walk you right through it. It's a big spreadsheet you can type in. Same as in contributions, you'll want to present accounting reports if you're doing your books in PowerChurch. I can tell you right now, we recommend that you run an income and expense statement and a balance sheet. But there's also all stripes of accounting reports. If you are looking for an accounting report that shows you any one particular thing, what's going on with my building fund, what's going on with my CD, what are the totals for just this or that, same thing, call us. There's a list of, there's 100 accounting reports. One of them is the exact thing you're looking for, and we know which one. And especially the thing that we are not talking about today is how you set up PowerChurch or Empower to send email. That's one I don't even want to gesture at it on this call. It's call us tech support. It's usually a 10 or 15-minute phone call. My advice on how you handle that is make sure that you've got a church email account in mind, like a Gmail account or something that you want to use. Doesn't need to be email. And it's got to be an email account you've got the password for, like an email you could log into and check if you needed to. But if you're armed with that information and you call us and you say, hey, I need help sending email through PowerChurch, that's a 10, 15-minute phone call and something we can help with very directly. I also want to call out some of the really good stuff on our website. This particular page right here, powerchurch.com/year-end, has links to a bunch of documents about this exact stuff on there. Actually, I can just show that to you on screen here so you can see what a good thing it is. And I also, while I'm there, I'm going to show you another page on our website, the knowledge base, that has good information about a lot of that stuff. So here is our beautiful PowerChurch.com website announcing our end of year sale and so on. Let's see. So first off, that link that we've got, and you'll be able to just click on this in the document you get, and we'll put it in the chat too. But this is the page, powerchurch.com/year-end. The first thing it does is warn you that we're really busy in January, and it's going to take us a couple hours to call you back. But also, it talks about the tax forms, and it's got all these links down here to various pages on our website that talk about how to do pretty much everything I've just talked about here. Very handy. And especially for the tax table stuff, but also lots and lots of other things. We have a knowledge base that's just full of articles we've written over the years that are helpful for one particular thing. And so, for example, if you go to support and then knowledge base, the thing I have people do most often is I have them search for the word federal to find this article. How do I update my federal tax state? But also, especially if you're not on tech support or you just want to check before you call, you can always go to the knowledge base and just search for something. Like if I search for the word statements over here, I'm sure I'm going to find some useful things, assuming I spell the word correctly. Yeah, it's got a little YouTube video here about how to email contribution statements. It's got information about how you deal with deceased people in the same way that I talked about here. And just in general, the knowledge base is a good place, as well as that canned powerchurch.com/year-end page that's specifically about the things we're talking about. But that is it. We've talked about all of the stuff that I was going to talk about and all of the stuff that I was not going to talk about. And so we've got another 15 minutes or so for questions. Let's see, I'm sure I've got a good list of those over here in this Q&A tab. Yes, okay. Let's start with the longest to go here. All right, lots of these. All right, so contributions have been put in with the wrong date. How do I change it once it's been posted? All right, first off, let's do that in PowerChurch, then I'll show you how to do it in Empower. Seem to post off my PowerChurch. I'm just logging right back in for our benefit here. I'm just logging into the demo of PowerChurch, which is something you all can do as well. If you're using PowerChurch Online, on that same screen where you type in your PCU username, you can type in demo1 or demo2 or demo3, and the password is demo. And you get this like toy PowerChurch that I'm playing with where it's just all full of fictional people. We reset it several times a day. It's harmless to play around with. You can't use it to send emails or issue tax forms, but it's what I'm using for the demonstration, and it's something you can use if you're ever just want to know how something works. You just mess with it in the demo, which we have right here. All right, so say you've made a mistake. You've entered and posted a contribution, and you said wrong date, but this is actually the solution for wrong anything. If you have posted a contribution that has got a problem, you go here. You go to contributions at the top, and then maintain donors. The screen shows you one donor at a time and all of their giving. Bring them up. And like, say this guy right here, the Balu family, say that was not the right date or not the right anything. What I do is I click this button at the bottom that says reverse/correct. I select the contribution that's got the issue, so it's highlighted in blue here, and then I reverse/correct. If this were just extra, I would say reverse. Since it's a little bit wrong, I'm going to do reverse and correct. And I get this opportunity that comes up to put in a new corrected version. Like say this was actually supposed to be for the 11th. You know, I could change anything here. I'm just changing the date because that's what you asked about. Hit save. It tells me that it's been reversed. I hit OK. And that does this piece of corrections work here. Puts in a new correct one and negatives out the bad one. After you do this, you then need to post. So the way you do a correction in PowerChurch is you go to contributions and then maintain donors. Bring up the person you're talking about, click on the contribution you're talking about, do the reverse/correct process. Tell it to reverse and correct. And then when you're done, you post, just like you would after doing any other piece of work. All right. So same thing in Empower. So say you have entered, and in this case, the word is deposit. You've entered and deposited something that doesn't belong there. It's not right. Over to my Empower here. All right, welcome. And so, same thing, we go to contributions and then donors. This is the same thing as contributions and maintain donors in PowerChurch. Shows you one donor at a time. The list here is on the left. And the interesting stuff is in the contributions tab. It shows you each individual day they made donations and the dates and all the information we care about here. You click this little dot, dot, dot here on the right. If this were just an extra, we'd reverse it. In this case, if it's just a little bit wrong, we hit edit. And it makes a warning here. Hey, this is part of a deposit. If we make a change to this, it's going to change the deposit, which is fine. But we want it to. It's wrong. And so here we can just change the date, change the amounts, change anything we need to, and save this. And that's how you do that same piece of work in Empower. I want to emphasize in both of those cases, it is way better to catch that stuff before you post or before you deposit, because you can just make a quick change to it and there's no consequences and you don't have to do a special thing. But if you catch it after the fact, that's how you do it. In PowerChurch, you reverse, and in Empower, you edit with a little dot, dot, dot on the right. All right. So how do you handle, next question here. How do you handle a contribution made on the last Sunday of December if it won't be deposited until January? And the answer is you put it in for the day it was received, that day in late January that you actually got the thing. Even if it's not literally getting deposited, if you're depositing it and the bank's going to sit on it a couple days, it's the same thing. You put it in for the day you received it, because that's really important. If the person gave it to you on the 28th, it needs to be on their giving statement for this year. You want to make sure you don't forward date it and make their statement lower than it should otherwise be. Gotcha. And that if you're doing the accounting part, there's one consequence of doing that. If you have a deposit like for the last Sunday of a month, sometimes that will just be outstanding at the end of the month. Like it'll be on your December reports, but it won't be on the bank statement until January. The bank reconciliation handles that fine. Works like you'd expect. You leave it outstanding like you'd leave an outstanding check outstanding. If you need help with any of that stuff, give us a call. It's straightforward. Cool. All right, next question. What field can I update to indicate an individual is a deacon? Okay. A couple of ways to do that. So one thing that comes to mind is that you might want to just have a group of deacons. I've got Empower open here. I'll start in Empower this time. In membership, it's the section activities. We'll be doing, it's called activities and skills in PowerChurch, but it's like a way to keep track of lists of people. In the same way that you can have a list of preschoolers and all your preschoolers are in the preschool activity, you could set up an activity called deacons and all your deacons are in the deacon activity. That you'd hit add activity here and it'd be number, make up a number, call it deacons, and then you go through and add people in who are members of that activity, who are your deacons. This is something we can walk you through, but the short answer for one way to handle it is you set it up as an activity, the same as you do like a Bible study or something, where you'd set up an activity called deacons, put your deacons in it. Show you the same thing over in PowerChurch. So this is, again, this behaves exactly the same, just the menus are in a different place. It's membership and then activities and skills, and then maintain activities and skills. It brings up this window that shows you all your different activities. In this case, we'd create one, give it a number, call it deacons, and then go to the members tab and add in a couple of people who are deacons. This gets you most of the way there. If you've got a group full of deacons, then you can do like mailing labels for all your deacons. You can do a call sheet, a list of addresses, easy stuff. I seem to have accidentally made an 8-year-old child a deacon, but what are you going to do? The other thing you might want to do is, especially if you might also want to set it up as a personal status. that if you wanted to have like the way you have member or visitor or attender, you could have deacon as a personal status. You could do this thing or the other thing. But especially if you want to be able to see like a list of all the donations that just the deacons have made, or if you want to be able to use any report in the system to show you just the deacons, setting deacon up as a personal status is a good move. And then the third thing is, as far as personal status, that's the same in Empower. It's right below their name is their personal status. You control that list. You can set people up as a member, a visitor, all good. But the other thing is that deacons have a special relationship. They have a job in the church, which is generally to do parishioner outreach. And so in PowerChurch, the thing that's intended to track like who's your deacon is the section visitations, where you set up like a list of so-called who visits, which would be like the names of your deacons. And then every family has a deacon that visits them, and you can record when and have some notes. This is complicated enough that I'd say if you like the visitations thing, give us a call about it and we'll help you get it set up. But that's like when you ask how do I track deacons, 3 different things come to mind on that. That the first one is that you could set up a group of deacons if your concern is like being able to email all of your deacons easily. That's how you do it. You might also want to set that up as a personal status like member or visitor might be, or you might want to set it up in full detail with the visitation section, where you keep track of what deacon they've got and when the last time their deacon contacted them and how. I'm looking for the rough equivalent here in Empower, and the answer is it's like we do not. Oh, yeah, the caring tab. I don't think that keys off of deacons in particular. Nope. Yeah, so that stuff's all relevant to PowerChurch in particular about visitation. So if you want to track the same kind of thing in Empower about like how the church has been in contact and who, call us about that. There's a way to do it in the caring tab. But it's not quite the same, not directly deacon related, even if it is your deacon's calling. Sorry, I know that was a really long answer, but it depends on how you're tracking your deacons and what you need out of it. So let's see, if the spouse died during the year, wouldn't the tax return still be for the couple? So it could be. If you wanted it to be, it can. You can just leave the envelope number on the deceased person and it'll do, John and Jane Smith on the statement. My perspective here is one from PowerChurch Tech Support, where a frequent genre of call is in January, February. Someone calls and says, hey, I issued a statement with someone's deceased spouse's name on it, and they called me upset about it. How do I issue them a statement without it? So if you want the general answer here is the name on the statement is determined by who has the envelope number in PowerChurch or who is a member of the giving unit in Empower. And you control that based on how you want that stuff to be understood. Cool. All right, so next up, how do we depreciate our plant assets at year end in PowerChurch? The short answer on that one is a transaction. That this is absolutely a tech support call, and we're not accountants here at PowerChurch. We can't help you calculate your depreciation, but if you have, the way you do it is you punch in a transaction, looks like this. So you do a credit to the accumulated depreciation asset. There's one of these in each category for fixed assets. Say it depreciated by $500 this year. Do that as the credit. These accumulated depreciation assets, these guys right here, they just get more and more negative, dragging down the value of whatever real assets are in those categories. And then the debit would be to an expense account, an accumulated depreciation expense account, which we have right here. Now, so this is a depreciation transaction. You'd probably want to put in a more descriptive reference and description here and put this in for the end of the year, but like this is the answer. You would credit the accumulated depreciation asset and debit the depreciation expense. Call us if you have any further questions on that one. Do you need to change the salutation when someone dies? Yes, definitely. Otherwise, you'll sometimes be printing out mailing labels with the wrong people's name on. Okay, great question from Jill. How do I create a mailing list for labels for only those members receiving a contribution statement? I am thrilled to report there is a built-in way to do this that is exactly the thing you're looking for. So you go to contributions at the top, and print mailing labels here from contributions and then print mailing labels. And you tell it you want to do it for selected contributors. And if you just leave it on year to date or this year, the set of mailing labels it generates is going to be all the people who donated this year, the same set of people who you're giving statements for. You can choose whether to print their envelope number on there or not. And that does just exactly the thing that you're looking for. I don't quite have that answer as much on the tip of my tongue here for Empower, but I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it. Works? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to flip back over to Empower and show you how we go about doing that. In Empower, the mailing labels are in the list of reports that you generate them from the report screen. So welcome back over to Empower. So we go to membership and then reports. And the easiest way to find stuff is you search for it. There's one household, people, and activity mailing labels. In this case, we need to filter this down because if we just include people, that's all the people, including the non-donors. And so we click Add Filter here. Yeah, boom, person contributed this year. And so you'd run mailing labels in the list of reports in Empower, person mailing labels, and you'd have to add a filter for person contributed this year. And then you get a list of mailing labels for just the people who contributed this year. What is Empower? Empower is another piece of software that we're writing. It's eventually going to be a successor to PowerChurch, though PowerChurch is not going away for the next decade or more. Empower is web-based church management software. It does all the things PowerChurch does in membership and contributions right now. We'll be adding accounting to it probably sometime next year, though I can't make any promises on the part of the development team. But it's basically like a web-based PowerChurch that you can log in and from any device that has a web browser. It works just the same on your phone, your iPad, and it tracks membership and contributions. And broadly speaking, in those sections, does the exact same stuff that PowerChurch does. But we make and sell both, and we try to keep them as far as the real useful stuff that we're talking about here. We want to make sure you can do all of it in either one. Okay. Next question. On the contribution statement in the fund summary, it's showing a right number, but the actual value in the pledge summary is much less. What's up with that? There are a variety of reasons for that to be wrong. The most common is that some of their contributions to that fund this year got applied to the wrong pledge or didn't get applied to a pledge. That one's a complicated enough answer. I'd say it's a tech support call, but bank on that being a 10-minute or less tech support call, especially if you can say, hey, I'm looking at envelope number 456's contribution statement. It says they donated $1,000 to the pledge fund, but there's only $900 shown as applied to their pledge. There's a couple different things that could be, but none of them are hard to fix. Give us a call and we'll help you square it away. Okay, let's see. Next question is from a Canadian about printing tax receipts. So they issued tax receipts with the numbers. And now they wish they hadn't. They don't want to do non-consecutive numbers with the CRA. I don't think it's actually a problem to have non-consecutive numbers, but if it's a concern to you, call us and we can fix that. The way PowerChurch works with the receipt numbering is when you do a batch, it runs up the numbers and they never go back down. There's a field in the database. There's no button to click to make it go down, only up. That said, here at PowerChurch, we can just change that number for you. Call us and mention to the technician that Thomas said here in the seminar that you could go into the database and change the receipt number for me, and then they'll do it for you. Don't go spreading that around. Much better not to run up the receipt numbers unless you need to. But if you need to roll them back down, we can, like rolling down a cars or don't. All right, next question. I have a member who prepays their pledge. How do we update so that their pledge, that their statements are ready? Yeah, they donate in 2025 to apply to their pledge in 2026. That is also probably a tech support question. It's really similar to the one a couple ago, where the thing where you apply a contribution to a pledge outside of its year, that's happening to the person 2 questions ago by mistake. They did that thing accidentally, and you're trying to do it on purpose because this person's prepaying their pledge. It's the same answer though. Give us a call and ask us, like, how do I apply a 2025 contribution to a 2026 pledge? 5-minute call. A statement should be saved to the deceased. If the deceased person is the only name on the envelope number in the giving unit, you just do it. You don't filter out deceased people when you run the statement, and it includes that, no problem. And is there a report that gives the total pledged in full? Yeah. So let's see, I got Empower up here. Justin, feel free to cut me off here. I'm planning on just answering every single question unless we're actually out of time.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple more minutes, then I'll jump in. You're a popular guy, Thomas.
Roger. All right. So in Empower here, which I'm showing you, you go to contributions and then reports. And if you scroll down, there's a whole section of pledges ones. You probably want something like the pledge to actual comparison or the active pledges report. Those show the same information sliced a little bit differently. But it's all the same thing. Like the active pledges shows you each individual person's pledge. Pledge to actual comparison shows you what people pledged and then how much of that has actually been fulfilled so far. But yeah, those are both good reports. They also are pretty much identical in PowerChurch, which I'm going to flip over and show you right now. Welcome back to PowerChurch, where we still have our mailing labels open from last time. So the reports you're looking for there, it's contributions and then reports contributions. Easiest thing is you can just search for the word pledge here. If you're in version 15, they all have the word pledge in them. You're looking for, it's the same ones, active pledges or pledged to actual comparison. These other ones are also good, and they all show the same information, just sliced differently. So if you have something that you need that's not one of those, try these other ones, try pledge range report. But like these 2 are the main pledge reports in both PowerChurch and Empower. Active pledges, pledge to actual. Can I increase the font size in the enter contribution screen? Sort of. You can increase the font size on everything like that. The way you do that, and the question of how to make stuff bigger in PowerChurch is one that is a little complicated, but this is the first thing to try. You go to File in the top left, Preferences, and then User Setup Options. And in the General tab, there's an option to override system display size. So if you wanted to change it, try 125. If it's at 100, try 125. Don't crank it up to 200. And it just makes many things a little bigger than they otherwise would be. Like this enter contribution screen, you can see it's gotten a little bigger. It doesn't change everything, but it does change that in particular. If you need help doing that, I know I just kind of whipped through like 3 steps really fast. If you need help doing that, call us and say, hey, I need help making stuff like enter contributions a little bit bigger. We'll walk you through it.
You want to do one last question? And then we'll wrap.
Let's see, about the demos. The PowerChurch Online demo, that's the username demo1, password demo. Username demo2, password demo. It goes up to 5. Demo 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. The password is demo. They're all separate. They are all harmless to mess around with. Let's see. In-kind donations. The lady who responded to that question is right. You want to write a letter saying thank you for your donation of that. That's all that we can get to. But everything y'all are asking and everything we talked about is right up the middle for PowerChurch tech support. So if you guys are on Empower or PowerChurch Online, you're on unlimited tech support already. If not, you can call and order tech support, and we can really, really help you on all this stuff. This is absolutely stuff that we've got a staff of people who know this program in and out. But that's it for today.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us. So I'll be sending out a copy of the recording and some of the resources that Thomas mentioned today. We will not be doing a live webinar in December because we know you are busy, and we're trying to get things ready for the end of the year for you too. But we'll send out some additional end of year resources too for that hopefully will be helpful. So you could utilize our product more and serve the people that you're called to. But yeah, we just want to thank y'all so much and have a great week.